first Sunday at my intern congregation, Redeemer Lutheran Church in Aurora. And after the service, they went downstairs for a little punch and cookie thing to meet the new intern. And so I'm greeting people. Little did I know that Linda wasn't so sure she was going to go down and meet the new intern.
Tell us why.
I figured if he wanted to meet me, he would.
And
the other reason is my sister married the intern 6 years earlier. So I just wanted some space.
I remember distinctly, she came, she had a pale blue dress on, and she shook my hand very gently. And that's how I met Linda. Fast forward 3 weeks, I was writing my sermon at the church, and I heard the door open, and she was coming to church to get her Sunday school material because she was teaching Sunday school. So we had this very strange conversation. She's the bottom of the stairs, I'm the top of the stairs.
It was just kind of a little get to know, what do you do? What are you doing here? And what'd you come to pick up? And
the truth is we were both on the rebound. So then another week later, I had met another intern. His wife said, maybe you can come over and have dinner with this intern and me. So cooking dinner, I like to cook. And about half hour before it was supposed to start, I called her up and said, can you drive over here? I'm running late on cooking this dinner. And she said, sure.
I did.
And I did not know that was the first time that someone had not picked up one of the 4 Koenigsberg girls for a date. So then we had a lovely evening, and we had a better time than either of us really anticipated, and we started dating. That was the end of September, and we invited her over. It was the end of April.
He's a really good cook. He's a good catch for cooking.
I sat down on the chair next to her and said, I really think that we should spend the rest of our life together. And she said, let me think about it. Finally, 5 days later, of course I didn't have a ring, but I had no money. So, yes, 5 days later, we scheduled this August wedding, and my dad lent me some money, and I bought a ring. And then we had 1 year together in seminary, and so we've known each other 43 years. And for 41 of them, we've been ordained ministers.
Yes, that's right.
Being a pastor and his family, having a family, has its interesting moments. We were in Kirkland, and we had our 3 little kids shortly before we came here. One Christmas morning, we had a 10 o'clock service, going to be Christmas Day, and our kids were up, and we were opening presents, and we got up early. And there was a knock at the door from the usher at the church. We live right next door to the church. And Pastor, are you coming to church today? Overnight, the power had gone off, and our clocks were off by 2 hours. So it's like 20 minutes to worship time. I think you were playing, weren't you? Linda was going to play the organ, and I was going to lead worship. So we got a box of tricks and put our kids in their pajamas in a car and drove to someone's house and left them in their pajamas with tricks on Christmas morning, and people were cool with that. Then we jumped into our clothes and did Christmas morning worship. That happens in a pastor's family. And I came down here because St. John said they wanted to grow, and they didn't mean just numerically. And they were asking for preaching and teaching and stewardship and things I was good at. And my dad said, a call is where your gifts match the need. St. John was very ready to make some changes. I mean, 75 years downtown, 8 years getting settled in the desert between then and now, and then I was lucky enough to arrive and be part of their entry into their promised land. And I thank God for all my predecessors. They all did what needed to be done when it needed to be done. You know, I was thinking this morning about interviews I had to go to other calls that didn't work out. And I tried to imagine myself living in Springfield or in Glenview or other places I had interviewed, and I just can't imagine. And I'm so glad I didn't. So you just never know. No's lead to the right yes.
Coming to St. John was a transition for my kids from the country church. So it took a little bit for them to get in the swing of things. Getting in the car definitely was one of them. And
the first day at St. John was memorable. Diane Barnes tells the story. She came into the bathroom, and there were Julia and Marianne trying to change Nathan's diaper. Shortly after that, someone came in and said there's been a car hit in the driveway. It was really icy that day. It's January, and it was our car. Our first Sunday at St. George.
It's the first time in 9 years I had to drive to church.
And the car got hit.
And the car was
We lived next door to the church. We walked to church at Kirkland.
So I was just blown away. I think they had to say the number
And
probably 12 times because it was, of course, not my car.
7 weeks later, driving to church for midweek, my other car got hit.
We just were country folk.
Country folks, yeah, all this city traffic here. You know, one of the things I've enjoyed that doesn't happen all the time is going to a quiet place with people in the congregation. What I mean by that is retreats. Go away, be together, get refreshed, go to a quiet place, and what a great job when you get to do that. Whether it's confirmation camp, which is something I always look forward to, and Linda always hated because I left for a week.
Until she came and was
Until I became the camp nurse. That was great.
So we got to go together. But Kingdom Weekend for years and years, the men's canoe trip to the Boundary Waters. I remember when the men took the 8th grade confirmation boys for a weekend camping trip at Lutheran Outdoor Ministry Center. The kids' youth retreat, you know, the kickoff retreat, and then we started going to Dixon Valley and Lutheran Outdoor Ministry Center every winter for a winter retreat. Got that idea from another pastor. Said he took his high school kids out to the camp and in the middle of winter, and they just hung out and relaxed and watched movies because they were all so tired and they needed a break. And you've been on retreats.
Women's retreat, and then there was the women's canoe trip. That was a bonding time.
When you go to something important, it's a shared memory. It never goes away for those with whom you experienced it or yourself. I mean, and I've enjoyed bringing new experiences to people that I learned elsewhere. And the great thing is that St. John has always been ready to take some risks. I think the latest one would be the growth of the food pantry. From something to nothing, with a lot of changes that we talked about and grew into that was never there before. And where that comes from, though, is the people. It's really our job to share this with as many people as possible, whether they're like us or not, whether they're going to join the church or not. That outward looking towards the others is what to be a Christian is. And, you know, that happens in 100 sermons and 50 dinners and 2 retreats and 1 hospital call. It comes in so many ways. And it's been our life's work. I've enjoyed and had laughter not just with adults, but I enjoy teaching confirmation. And boy, has it changed since we began. I mean, 28 years ago was kind of the old way. We had a half a dozen kids, and then we had 15, and Denny Beach got here. It was like a whip and a chair on Wednesday nights, keep them in line. And Denny came up with this idea to make it more interesting, which is when we segued into what we had been doing already in confirmation camp. And working with other pastors, and every week with Jen, and with Linda Jones before that, just to watch kids grow and to get to know them. And to live on the floor with the guys, they realize that I'm a human being, and it's fun when they see them for real and they see me for real, and then we bond a relationship that's real. You know, our whole confirmation program is making these young people feel like they belong and to know other adults. What a team we've got. We've got 25 adults that help us every Wednesday night. We couldn't do it without them. I mean, I've never had more fun than in midweek Lenten services, doing the Bible dramas and telling stories. My intern pastor liked to do something. He said, well, we do something kind of fun and corny, tell some jokes and have this thing called parson to parson. That got my creative juices flowing. And then when in Kirkland, I started the Johnny Markson show, and I interviewed guests. And for the first several years here, we had the Larry Saint show. And then we segued into Prayer Home Companion 20 years ago, and the Bible drama. And that just seemed to be a keeper. People really enjoyed it.
And the miracle is that people enjoyed it and came.
Yeah. In all ages, in all ages. That's what I love. The kids loved it.
But he is coming this time, and I hope that you, Garrison, would be coming too. 2, 4, 6, 8, who do we appreciate? Yeah,
And people looked forward, and there are still people that go more to church during Lent at St. John than any other time of the year, which is unheard of. I enjoy what I'm doing more than ever. And it's not because I don't enjoy what we're doing that I'm retiring. But it's time for our family to be number one. I mean, after 42 years of sitting by yourself in the pew, it will be nice to have
Fun company.
company.
Just a second.
Talk about filling your bells up.
Can I just say my little thing before I forget it? Because I have chemo brain.
Okay, all right. What?
I just think the people of St. John's have a unique ability to work together, form their own small groups that become independent, and they're able to go ahead and do what their goal is, and they enjoy each other doing it. But that's how we get a lot of things done, is by people being assertive and going ahead and doing the gardening or the quilting, but gathering together in a group and starting their own gift. They've kind of popped in and out of our lives.
Well, I was thinking with
Starting with the tornado. They had an integral part with that, helping with that experience. And then the flood, in 7 weeks, they helped replace our house.
That was 96.
And there's been just several episodes where people have been right there for you when you need it and making it happen.
Now, I mean, the help that we have the last 5 months, it's just been incredible and humbling.
I think the key is working with people.
Good
If
health
you
insurance and therapists.
Be honest.
I was being serious.
We're both.
We're serious. We're
I know
being
you are.
honest.
I know you are, but you know.
But the peanut gallery back here is like,
Yeah.
sounds about
And that
right.
goes for that goes for the family
This
also.
goes into the blooper reel, right? Yeah.
We'll tell the real story
Group
now.
therapy for our family really worked out well.
That's really why we didn't move. We decided, do we
pay?
pay more money in psychiatry if we stayed here for high school?
Yeah.
I was like, it's not worth it, forget it.
When we first got here, St. John was small, and there weren't a lot of windows. And it was very soon pretty crowded. We needed to add on. And so 91, we made the decision to do it. In 92, we built it. In 93, we finished it. But one of the more important things is when our council president, Gene Maxwell, said, we can build the biggest building in the world, but if we don't have a staff in it to do good ministry, then it'd be not worth it at all. So they were supportive of adding Pastor Beach and a youth person at the very same time, Barb Gibbs. So all along, I think we've been committed not just to buildings, but to programs and ministry, and realizing that people need to be there to do that and give leadership to it.
Now, this is also a form of bread, right?
When did we realize that we might be in here for the long haul? Well, interesting things kept happening. And you don't leave in the middle of a building program, and it's not cool to leave a year after. And so, you know, by 95, 96, you know, we were done with one, and kids were in school, and by 2003, it was crowded again. And we realized that if our church were going to grow, we had to have room for other people's. And that's when we added the sanctuary and expanded the Sunday school. Those were exciting times, and the kids were getting out of high school, and that would have been a time we might have thought of leaving. But that's when we started talking about the merger with Abundant Life, and I realized that if that happened, I would spend the rest of my ministry here. I felt called to be the steady, ongoing thing in a time of great change.
Now, I found that people of St. John, it's natural for them to greet people, to become involved with what people need and are doing, and not just the important people, but they're able to mingle with everybody and be a support person for many people. You don't always see that, but I think that's a going concern at St. John, because people are checking on people all the time. So it's a real gift.
It is.
Not all churches have that.
So how did we stay sane during all this? Is that what you'd like to know? I'm really glad that St. John has a sabbatical program.
They don't have one for the wife, however.
Oh, wait a minute. You went along on the sabbatical. You know. In a Lily Foundation, we went to Africa. Next time, get a sabbatical program for the spouse.
Well, they really need it.
They do. They do. Yeah. You know, it's yeah.
Bye, see you in a week. Yeah, we'll be fine. We got the routine down. It'll be okay.
That's the truth. Yeah, and that's one reason I am thankful for this wonderful woman here who's my wife. As you look back at your years as a minister and all the great years at St. John, it's fundamentally about the relationships and the people. Even preaching a sermon is hopefully individuals hearing the good news. How many cards do you think you sent people in 29 years?
I've sent a lot of cards, but St. John people have sent a lot of cards also. Knowing when to be involved and when not to be involved, I think, is a big part of it. And then being there, being a listener, is another big part of being a pastor's wife.
Reminding your husband what he forgot to do, who he should go see, and he should do it now. Right?
I never did things like that.
Oh, yeah. Lying eyes there. Yeah. No, and I appreciated that. No, and sometimes we go visit folks together,
Yes.
which was fun.
So it's following up on calls and following up on people. And when that change starts, then you become part of their system.
At birth, at baptism, at confirmation, at marriages, and then at funerals, you get to celebrate those great, exciting times. There's a lot of joy, and then there's your sorrows. Yeah, in many ways, it's, church family is your extended family. As I think about St. John, I think of a lot of people who passed on that were really significant, wonderful people who are as alive to me today as they were when they were walking around with us. You go through somebody's life, you become part of it. And I guess as I've been thinking about that, I've been thinking back to the 13 years we had before we got here. I have memories of all those people in two different congregations who are just as alive, from Glen Ellen and from Kirkland. We always tried to do our best to let people know how special they are. I've always enjoyed visiting people in the hospital. Helps them to know that they're remembered by God and their church. I'm just going to miss the people. It's that simple.
They're like a second family.
Whether I've known them a month or for 29 years.
They've all had an influence on who and what we are, definitely.
I think one of my favorite things at St. John was when Linda and I did Saturday night. She'd play and I'd preach, and then we'd go out and have a sandwich. But it was just really special to be able to do that together.
Do that work together.
Here is a love vast as the ocean, loving kindness as the flood. When the Prince of life our ransom shed for us his precious blood.
What was most exciting for us? It's real hard to say because the whole thing's been an adrenaline rush.
Well, I think one thing is when the choir would put together a little musical.
I also love having associates so I can hear sermons. I'm gonna miss working with our team. From the office to the musicians to Robin and Jen. I just really like being with this group of people. We work hard and we have fun. That's another reason I never left St. John. I enjoyed it. I wouldn't want to work by myself. And people bring different gifts to the table.
I'm going to miss them.
Merging with Abundant Life Lutheran Church was incredibly exciting. Our beautiful instruments, the piano and the organ, the choir cantatas, the special anthems, bringing instruments in, our band. I mean, we are so deep in music, and we love music. I just love to listen to the choir. I mean, that's the one time as pastor you're not in charge. But moving into a new building, celebrating our 100th anniversary with Mabel Drowden coming down the aisle in her wheelchair with balloons, I'll never forget that. We're going to miss this place. We got a lot of family memories.
That's right.
Just after Easter, I was sitting in the church looking around saying, being very satisfied and feeling this is just a great place to be. And not just because of the building, but I was sitting watching the sun come through the windows.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Won't let Satan blow it out, I'm gonna let it shine. I won't let Satan blow it out, I'm gonna let it shine. I won't let Satan blow it out, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Keep it shining till Jesus come, I'm gonna let it shine. Oh, I'll keep it shining till Jesus come, I'm gonna let it shine. Keep it shining till Jesus come, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
I can't go to sleep till midnight on Sunday, any Sunday. Right? I'm tired, I'm still wired up.
And that's never changed in 41 years.
Let it shine, let it shine.